So I'm really excited for this next talk, which is What Am I Worth? Rethinking Fair Pay for Creators. Again, we've got an incredible panel for you today. We've got Charlotte Stavrou, who's the founder of a leading influencer marketing talent agency called SevenSix Agency. And she also spearheaded the 76 Influencer Pricing Report. We've got Max Fosh, who's a comedian and a YouTuber, and Abbey Mills from Born Social, which I'm sure a lot of you guys, I certainly am a big fan of their company. It's a full-service social agency. And she's really doing deals for some of the biggest brands in the world, so has a lot of insight on this. So for our next panel.
Hello.
Amazing. Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are beyond excited to be part of a panel this morning. I'm Abbey. I'm Chief Client Officer at Born Social. And as mentioned, we specialise in building social-first brands. Today, we have a really exciting discussion that you are now a part of. We are going to be talking about how we currently measure the value of creators and their content, and what about that system isn't working for both creators and also brands alike. Of course, I'm going to immediately get my brilliant panelists to introduce themselves, tell them a little bit about yourselves, what you do, and then also, if I can, ask you to share a recent best-in-class example of a creator campaign that you've seen out in the wild that you think is kind of something that we should all be looking at for inspo. Charlotte, I'm going to ask you first.
Hello. So I'm Charlotte Stavrou, and I am the founder of 76 Agency. So we are a talent management agency, and we are also the creators of the Influencer Pricing Report. So I love to talk about all things influencer pricing and how much they should be charging and how much we should be paying them. I think best in class, I'm actually going to promote my talent. Surprise, surprise. We have a creator that we look after called David Zaquin, and he is a runner. And recently he's just run the London Marathon, amongst many, many other runs. And around the marathon, he worked with lots of different brands on promoting how to run, which I think has been really exciting to see. So he went to the Boston Marathon with Adidas and then did some kind of fringe events and walked through that. He worked with Celsius to walk through like the pre-game of running, and it was really nice to see brands investing in a creator doing the thing that they love. But then the results for the content did really, really well, and people were just genuinely engaged just because they want to know how to run, because I don't know how to do that.
Amazing. Max?
Hello, my name is Max Fosh. I am a YouTuber and a comedian. I specialise in anything silly. So I wrote Welcome to Luton next to Gatwick Airport to make people think they landed at the wrong airport. I managed to trick Americans into thinking that I was a member of the royal family called the Earl of Luton. And so, yeah, I make content online that is all about silliness. And as a result, I work a lot with brands. For the question, Abbey, about kind of best in class, I saw a fantastic campaign that Shopify did with a creator called Ryan Trahan in the States, where he's got a candy store that they did a pop-up for that. And there are lots of brands who are, helping creators. We're seeing more and more creators kind of making brands and starting their own businesses. And Shopify were great at, I saw that and thought it was a really seamless way of transitioning for the audience, and they really enjoyed that.
Love that. Thank you both very much. So I guess some context, some of the things that we've been talking about that kind of tee us up for the discussion today. We've continued to see the creator economy boom. I think this track at South by is kind of evidence of that in itself. And with that comes greater attention, greater investment, and also, quite rightly, a bigger cry for clarity on what the return on that investment is, and therefore how we look at pricing across creators broadly. And despite the need from both sides, both creators and brands, we're still seeing this slightly finger in the air approach to how much should we pay this person and how much is this content worth. So we're going to cover a few different sections. We're going to ask these guys, what is it about the current setup and within the industry at the moment that feels broken? What are the challenges with that? We're absolutely going to look at the future and ask ourselves the question of what role should and could AI play, and also which role should it definitely not. talking to the both about what are the solutions, what can we do collectively as an industry to change what feels broken, and also some added bonus views on how to get the most value out of working with creators really well. So Charlotte, I'm going to kick off with you with your view on what is broken about the way in which we're looking and measuring creators today.
Wow. I don't think we've ever really looked at it and created a strong plan. I think that's the issue. It's not necessarily that it's broken, it's just that we never started. So the industry is relatively new, but for a lot of influencer marketing professionals, it's the only job they've ever done. It's all they've known in their career. So it can't be that new, because there are people, for example, I've worked in social media and influencer marketing for about 14 years. And before that, it didn't really exist. But that's, bless you, I'm pretty senior. So that, kind of shows that it's not that new at this point. So I think that one of the biggest issues is that we haven't really created the structure of what we want to measure. So it becomes quite unfair for creators when brands and agencies are throwing all of their expectations on creators and saying, we've got this campaign, we're paying you this much, and these are the results we want. But every creator has a certain value. They offer different things. There are certain creators that just create incredible content that could be, a 20-person production set, but they do it as one person. And it could be on a billboard, and you wouldn't have to do a single edit. There's a type of creator that can just give you, that traffic, the sales that you need to sell out and go viral, whatever you need to do. There's another type of creator that brings you incredible brand awareness and get you free press off the back of an influencer campaign, which then hits a different target in a different department. So I think it's really important that we understand when we're putting a campaign together, what is it that we're actually trying to measure? Because every campaign will be different. And even within a campaign, each creator that you work with, you might need something different from them to put the overall measurement together. So I think that's the biggest issue.
Really helpful. And we did a bit of a survey beforehand with brands and other agencies, and one of the sound bites that came from that was, I still feel like my only option is to look at what we're calling vanity metrics or just engagement rate, for example. What is the upside or downside of that, and maybe what's the alternative?
I think because we haven't got, we have standardised measurement because that's what we have. And I think we've taken a bit from PR, a bit from not necessarily measurement, but how we handle influencers. Some of it comes from modelling. And I think we've kind of mixed everything together. But I guess there isn't anything wrong with vanity metrics if that's what you need to measure. But if you're looking for, a deeper measurement, some campaigns you might do they might be focused on really hitting a specific niche audience or specific target. You might want to look at different audience sentiments, or look at the impact on the audience and really look at comments and engagement in a slightly different way. And I think we have lots of tools that we can use to measure engagement, but I think we really need to deep dive specifically for you as a brand or agency, what it is that you want from those tools, and not have, a one-size-fits-all.
So a more bespoke approach to unlock the value. Amazing. And any key challenges that you've faced when trying to prove the value of your talent to brands?
I think one of the biggest issues is that, a brand will work with a creator once, and then we'll say, okay, well, that didn't work. And it's like, well, you've paid them for one post. They haven't had like a warm up. I feel like sometimes there's elements to a campaign that can really add to the value or to the end result. So if you're giving them this product that they need to talk about, are you giving it in advance? Are you able to seed in some I want to say warm-up posts? Can they do a couple of stories or kind of hints and integrated posts, like talk about this product before you go, a full hard launch on it? And I think things like that make the difference. But I think, one of the biggest issues is that brands and agencies alike brands want something, agencies will run to the whim of what our clients want. But at the end of the day, if you aren't specific with what your outcome needs to be, then it's going to be really difficult for the creator to give you that value that you're looking for, because it might actually not exist.
Nice. So specificity on what you want is helpful. Max, this feels like perfect time to bring you in and share your view on, I guess, what you feel has sometimes maybe been overlooked when you're creating content for brands in terms of the value that you can bring.
Yeah.
It'd be great to hear your perspective on that.
I often feel that kind of if I am working with brands, some brands see my YouTube video as their billboard, right? We're going to pay for 60 seconds in this billboard. Forgetting that the reason why people are watching that video in the first place, I always try to say to brands, I want this to succeed as well. If I'm coming back at you saying, okay, I don't think we should be hitting, a call to action in the first 30 seconds, there's a genuine reason to this, because I'm trying to say is, look, we want you to watch the entire video to feel like they've got some entertainment value out of it. That makes the call to action more effective. So I always enjoy it when I'm working with brands, because often I will have this. You need to talk about the brand within the first 5 minutes of the video. That is such a binary and objective thing that needs to be done, which then completely ignores how the storytelling is being done. Is it a good time to be putting it in there? Is it? Maybe. So I'm always open, and actually what you said, Charlotte, about spending more time with creators. The longer the partnership, the better understanding you get with how the creator works, what the brand wants, and also it means that you've got better shots at a video, quote, going viral, which I know lots of brands in the room always want their products to go viral. So yeah, I think that longevity with the brand is for me, the best way that I like to do it, because you just get a better rapport with an individual at the brand.
And that sounds like, for brands in the room, it's almost the more and the longer that you work with someone, the more value you're getting, because the partnership feels authentic on your side as much as it does theirs.
Yeah, there's a great example of this. There's a YouTuber called David Dobrik over in the States, and he had a partnership with SeatGeek, where basically he would give away cars to his mates with the money he got from SeatGeek. And so it became a long-going joke within the videos if he would call, I think, Ian from SeatGeek. So the audience knew that if they heard, I need to call Ian from SeatGeek, the audience knew someone's going to get a car, I should stick around and watch this. But that became something over the course of a number of years, and then it was so embedded in the content that they became a character. The brand became a character in the videos, which is exactly what you want, because then you're part of the community, rather than just this is the bit where we need to double click through to the next bit of the video.
And you talk a lot about almost your channel and your community being there for entertainment. How do you, as the creator, look at the value of that, or measure the value of that, either to you as a content creator or the brands that you're working with?
The value for the brands?
Yeah.
I mean, I just think, I pride myself with, audiences know that brand integrations are a thing on YouTube. And I think that my biggest challenge is, if I can make the audience laugh at the intro of the brand deal, it immediately puts them in better stead to engage with that and want to support the creator. The audiences want to support creators, absolutely. And so I find it's valued so that, I can do bigger videos, bigger stunts, because I've been paid by the brand. Been supported by the brand, and the audiences do know that. So I always love it when I'm working with brands who are slightly less focused on getting every single hit point they've spoken about in a marketing meeting, and more understanding of, okay, this is about brand recognition. Let's seed ourselves slowly into this content, so become part of it over time. You're in a lot of the videos, so the audience slowly come around to it. Okay, Max does partnership with Shopify. That's fantastic. So it just makes it feel, and then for the creator, it makes you feel tied closer to that brand as well.
I think that is a really helpful perspective to think, if you're a brand thinking about partnerships, that you don't always have the luxury of your community wanting you to succeed. Communities are much more skeptical of brand content than they are creators, to understand that creators community wants them to succeed and wants them to be successful and build partnerships. That gives us, I guess, a bit of credibility to follow the lead of the creator on the brief as to how to make them love it. We mentioned a little bit, Charlotte, the question of what can you measure. I guess, what should we measure instead? Do you have a view on what the different ways to measure could look like?
Yeah, I think influence marketing is really evolving. at a rapid pace. And I think we have a TikTok, it's quite big to thank there. How we consume content is so different, and what people want from content is different. I think it's quite interesting. You said how your audience will stick around if you make them laugh in the first, at the beginning of a piece of content. I think there's this misconception that audiences hate ads. They don't want to see an ad. But actually, they like ads if they're good. But I think there's not always the opportunity to give them what they want because of the restriction that briefs are put onto creators, and you kind of made, sometimes you're made to do things that don't really fit into what you would normally do, but the brand's adamant. So I think when it comes to what we want from measurement, we want a good ad. But what does that look like? So what would be a good ad for Max would be different for a good ad for someone who does B2B influence marketing, who does beauty. Everyone would be very different, but I think it's just figuring out individually per creator what looks good, but then also for the brand, what looks good. So finding that middle ground and then also separating it. And I think we don't do that enough in the reporting, looking at, okay, this was good for us, this was good for them. That might not necessarily be the same thing, but you did pay the creator because you wanted their audience and you wanted their content. So I think looking at what is good for the creator is best. So I think looking at, if you're looking at vanity metrics, likes and views and all of that kind of stuff, look at what works for the creator, not what is like the standard for the industry. Because we have a creator that we look after at 7/6 who has quite a small following, around 15,000 followers on Instagram, and more on TikTok. But when she does a campaign, an organic campaign on Instagram, her likes and views and comments go beyond any 100,000 follower creator, just because her audience is so engaged. And then we have creators who are slightly bigger and they won't get as many likes and views, but they will get really good brand awareness. So their content will then be put into like a who, what, where post, or go into some kind of publication that will get you something else, which is great because then it goes, as I said earlier, goes to the other team and you get that PR uplift and it's really exciting. So I think we need to look at what is it that works for the creator, and you need to look at that from the beginning, because otherwise everyone's going to be disappointed at the end. So that could be views,
Nice.
which is fine, but that could also be audience sentiment. That could also be brand lift if you've got the measurement opportunity and the data. It could be so many different things, but I think we really need to just think like, I know it sounds really vague, like you just need to decide what it is you want, but I think that's the biggest issue, that we don't always know.
But I think that's really helpful if you can kind of take one thing away, if you're thinking it as a brand, to look at what creator activity looks like over the next 12 months, getting really, really clear on what you want and what is the most important thing to you as a brand, feels like it then creates good ways of working with creators themselves. And in general, it feels like we're saying more time investment upfront in deciding and evaluating and communicating with creators about the value that they offer could be really beneficial for brands, which is helpful. A helpful segue into the discussion around AI. There is, of course, there is, of course, lots of discussion around AI taking up space. What is the role that AI could or should play within influencer and creator marketing over the next few years? So, Max, I'll go to you. That was quite a visceral reaction. So we'll go to you first. How you feel about that conversation, what you see as either the opportunity or the challenge within the space.
Right, okay. So my opinion, as a creator, right, I don't think anybody here gets really excited when they watch like a video that they know has been made by AI. So you would always prefer to be engaged with a person. You're not watching content because of the exactly what they're doing, because you like this person, you like what they're doing. And I don't think consumers are, I think everybody in the industry is like, oh, this is very exciting, AI, what can we do with AI? But audiences who are looking to have their entertainment are not thinking that. We saw this with kind of Duolingo recently, where they had one of the strongest social media presences. They then announced they were going towards AI, and their audience were like, what are you doing? And so from my perspective, I'm sure it's very, very useful for, if YouTube are bringing out something which is great, which is, adding dubbing tracks in different languages to add that to videos, so your videos can be watched in different countries and in different territories. I think that's fantastic. But from my opinion, I don't think audiences, the consumers, are crying out for more AI in content. So if there are ways in which it can facilitate content better, then fantastic. But I'm not going to be, explaining that to the audience, because I don't think ultimately they really care about it.
Yeah, that feels really clear. And Charlotte, I guess you're thinking about it from the other side of the field, which is the role of AI in sourcing creators or, valuing them.
I think I love AI in terms of the possibilities it can bring to the industry, and I am excited to use it in the future in a slightly different way, because it's going to make our jobs easier. But I think the biggest issue is that we're going to fuck it up. So with AI goes on what we feed it. And I talk a lot about diversity and inclusion in the influencer space, and that's the drum that I beat on a daily basis. And I think one of the biggest issues with AI is that there is a real lack of safety when it comes to D&I. And I think if we use it properly, it could be great, but we really need to put a plan together. So I speak to lots of brands and agencies. I go in and I do a lot of inclusive marketing strategy or inclusive marketing training to just help their teams understand how to take what you would have in like a HR workshop of like diversity inclusion, and take that information and put that into your marketing strategy, because it doesn't always make sense and there isn't really a link. And it's quite an important conversation, and a lot of agencies have put that into their kind of bones of their business, which is really exciting to see. But I don't think it's in the bones of AI yet. So if we're gonna use AI to find creators, to do our casting for us, to scour the internet and see what we need, we also have to have a full understanding of what the nuances are and what they may miss. And an example that we discussed offline was black creators in the UK tend to have a really large US following. There's many reasons as to why that could be. I personally think it's because there's more black people in the US. We're a tiny island. So you tend to follow who you kind of want to see and who you look like, et cetera, et cetera. So that is just a fact. So when AI is pulling the perfect combination of creators for a campaign, and you've given it the parameters that you want to see, and you've said, it needs at least 80% or 60% or whatever it is, UK following, you need this, this, and this, they're going to completely cut out these creators because they don't have what's needed. And that's just a small example, and it's just one that's always like front of mind. But that's just one nuance that it's not going to pick up unless we tell it. And then we have to explain the reason as to why, even though these creators don't fit into the parameters that we want for this campaign, why is it that we need them? And we need them because we need it to be an inclusive campaign. And then what does an inclusive campaign look like? And then we have to break that down. So I think with AI, it will be fine if we plug in or we program it to do it in the way that's actually needed. But unfortunately, I did a roundtable a couple of weeks ago with pretty much all of the top influencer marketing agencies in the UK. And I kind of said, show of hands, who has an inclusive marketing strategy in their business and who thinks about diversity and inclusion before the campaign starts and not at the end. And there weren't very many hands up. And it's not going to work because that's not set up already. So this is one point that AI is not going to work well. and there's obviously more things that we can pick out. But if we're not doing this in the real world rather than the robot world, then it's not going to work when we go into robot mode.
Amazing, very clear. So
Very technical.
I think we'll call it the robot world for the rest of the festival. So I think it feels like we know that we want some more standardization, some more clarity on value and pricing, but that I guess AI, upsettingly, is not the silver bullet for us at the moment. So I guess it is a question, Charlotte, back to you probably, is what could standardization of paying creators look like? Is that the right route that we need to go down? It is definitely, for context, the sentiment from a lot of brands that we spoke to, that was the real, this is what we want. Brands really wanted that kind of cheat sheet of everyone being paid the same for the same type of content. So is that possible?
Yeah, if we just book AI creators, then it'll be easy. I personally, which is quite interesting, because if you've seen me online, I talk about standardization to an extent a lot, and I talk about creator pricing and how we need to set kind of a. I do use the word standardization a lot, but I don't mean it in the sense that everyone should be paid the same. I think how we pay creators should be standardized, not the actual amounts. But yeah, I don't think standardization is possible. I think it's important to note that influencer marketing is a very specific part of the ad industry. It's not like paid social, it's not like performance marketing, it's not as clear cut, it's not as easy to understand the worth of a creator based on, just looking at their profile on social media. There's a lot that goes into it, and I think it's doing a disservice to the incredible creators that exist to say, you've got this amount of followers, you've got this engagement, you should be paid that much. We have our influencer pricing report, which will be released in 2 weeks' time. Just a humble plug. So if you're at Cannes Lions in 2 weeks, then I'll be releasing the data then. But in the report, we have 2 pages every year that we put. These are the kind of brackets of how much influencers can, I always say can, legally I can't say should, but can be paid. And this is what kind of the baseline rate, the going baseline rate is. And that's based on data from influencer marketing agencies and talent management agencies. And I think having the baseline is important so that we know, kind of, rather than finger in the air, oh, they should be paid X amount, it's like, this is what they could be paid in between these numbers. But then it's kind of like a plug and, is it plug and play? Like when you're like, add on. It's like when you go into Chipotle and you want to add like,
extra
guacamole and like all of that. It's like adding on those different services. So you want to add on paid usage. Okay, that's a different price. You want to add on exclusivity. That's another price. Oh, maybe it's a beauty campaign and they're a doctor. Okay, so you're adding on a slightly different price there because they've got a bit of that stamp of certification or approval. There's like different kind of levels of what a creator can provide. You're tapping into a specific audience that you won't have access to otherwise. This is a different price. But generally, we'll know what the baseline of what the lowest we should be paying. And then from there, we add on. And then we can also see what the maximum baseline could be and go from there. And I think that is what the future should be. That's why we do the report. And we do the report because so many creators don't know how much they should charge. And also brands don't know how much they should be paying. And it's really unfair.
It's constantly the Spider-Man meme of what's your budget, how much you normally get paid. And so you're constantly having this kind of like game that is being played. And it also, you're not factoring in whether the creator wants to do the brand.
Yeah.
Like that is, I will do things way lower if it's a fun opportunity, and I think that looks like a fun thing to do on a day out, which makes it quite difficult for my management to kind of price it. But that is a part of it that will get factored in, which is quite difficult.
And then the opposite side of that.
Yeah, and if I really don't want to do it,
yeah,
more guac, please.
Or exactly, add that guacamole on. But there's so many times where we have creators who, they're stacked. There's only so many pieces of content you can post in a day, in a week, in a month. And they also have to post organic content. So if you're, as a brand, bidding, essentially, that's what you're doing, for a piece of real estate on their feed, and they've also got 5 other brands that want that same day, then it might turn into a bidding war. That we see more of that with bigger creators than we would do a nano or a micro. But that's the fact, because you want to work with specific creators who have specific audiences and specific insights and all of that. You've got to pay for it.
I'm yet to have a bidding war, which is
Let's get one
a
now.
bit worrying, actually.
I think that's really helpful context. I guess for us it feels like evidence of the industry maturing in a way, even though it is throwing up some complicated issues. It's evidence that the impact of creators is rising and the industry itself is maturing enough to be in the scenario where we're bidding. You just got to see it.
I've always wondered this, whether there is a hesitancy from brands, from creators, to allocate. Let's say you've got a linear campaign, TV campaign that you're looking to hit 1 million people, and a YouTube campaign you're looking to hit 1 million people. I've always wondered whether, and brands, please let me know after or now whether this is the case. There's a hesitancy to put in the same amount of budgets from the marketing budget, because it seems like it's going to just one person. It feels wrong to be giving that amount just to one person or their team or whatever. Whereas they wouldn't blink an eye if it was a kind of traditional campaign. And that is kind of what I'm feeling a lot with brands when I hear about, campaigns they're doing on TV or billboards. It's like way more money, but they're still looking for the same amount of numbers, but they won't allocate that budget to a creator because they think, oh, that seems like a lot of money to give one person. It's not, guys. Come on, the water's fine.
Yeah, I think it is, with brand and client hat on, I think it's being able to internally articulate the value. It's almost the conversation that we're having today, right? It's like, I don't think it is, they're seeing them very differently, because the ability to articulate what the value of that is to the CFO or the person that signs off their budget is just more of a challenge. So yeah, first step in trying to dispel that and get people more understanding of it, for sure.
I don't think trackable links have really helped. And we kind of spoke about this, because previously you can now go to a CFO and be like, hi, we spent X amount and our return on investment was like half of that. So it's very easy for the CFO to be like, why are we doing that? Whereas previously it was kind of like, oh, I think it worked. Like, look, we're on a billboard. Fantastic. And so creators, if your goal is to track conversions and sales, to Charlotte's point, then that can be quite detrimental to the creator. But if it's like just brand awareness, it can be fantastic. So often creators can be hoisted by the own petard of having so much data, or the brand having so much data about that particular campaign.
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, which is getting really clear on what that value is and sticking with it.
I would also say making your own internal case studies, because I feel like a lot of us will have to go to the CFO or to someone to say, this is what we have, or this is what we've done. It's not quite what we said, but it's because we're not, as I said earlier, we're not measuring it with realistic goals in mind. So if you make your own internal kind of case studies, and I know Born Social, you do this quite heavily, and you showcase internally what you've done over time and what different partnerships look like, that also will go a long way. Looking at those longer term partnerships and what you get out of that over that one post, and then being able to explain that to the people in charge, whoever that might be, as to why you want to do a specific type of partnership, because you have that data. And then if you don't have that data, then hopefully someone else will share it on the internet and create case studies.
Yeah, totally. I'm a big believer in, rather than this sitting separately and sitting in silo and being looked at as something that is just measured in its own way, is to make an effort to understand what else in the business is being measured in a certain way, and how can influencer and creator work be integrated into that. Otherwise it will always be sat separately and not work as well. Max, final question for you was around, I guess, anything else that you want brands to know or understand when trying to get the most value out of working with creators?
I mentioned it earlier, but we want this to work as well, guys. We're not trying to push to the side and get through it as quickly as possible, because ultimately the consumers are watching our content. So the best brands that I work with, the ones, weirdly, where I'm talking with the person at the brand via WhatsApp, if I can just send them the link and be like, this is what we're doing.
Don't advocate for that.
No, I'm big fan of it. Charlotte Stavrou, come on, it's the Wild West. No, because just the reason why I say that is because with the YouTube videos I make, it will be, okay, here it is. Any feedback? Okay, can we just like change this? And that will over time be developed over someone that I've worked with for a long period of time. So the speed of which that we work on YouTube is as such that if I send it back to the brand for ideas of like whether they like the integration or the idea, then I can have it back quickly. So there's that opening dialogue rather than let's jump on a Zoom next week to discuss it. I want there to be speed with the communication, basically better communication is the answer.
Love that. And then Charlotte, anything from you?
I saw a post this morning on Threads where it was the founder of a beauty brand basically saying how influencer marketing just doesn't work and how UGC content is what performs. And there was so many people in the comments just being like, that's not categorically not true. And I think one of the biggest issues that we have with influencer marketing is that people literally do not understand what it is that most of us do. And they don't understand how influencer campaigns work and what the expectations should be, how to measure, all of these things. So I think my biggest takeaway for, especially if you aren't successfully working in influencer yet, it's you're probably not doing it right, and that's okay, but you need to figure out how to do it right, because influencer marketing, when done well, is incredible. We've seen brands, completely, or people, this whole industry is built on people. So we've built up brands through the creators that we work with. They've then gone on to create their own brands. People, it's really pushing into the economy. There's so much that goes well with influence marketing. It can be great for charities. It can be great for pushing social impact. It isn't just all about capitalism and commercialism, even though it's a big part of what we do. But I think it's just honing in on the fact that you might not be doing it right, and you might need to make some tweaks. But if you do it right, it could actually be sometimes life-changing for the brands that you're working with, especially small businesses.
Amazing. What a note to end on. Thank you both so much. It was amazing to hear both of your perspectives, and enjoy.
Thank you very much.